once again, we're back on the road this week wearing the same clothes. I pretty much treat it as a uniform, to be honest. But this week's property acquisition tip and trick is the external construction of a house and why that matters. So many different properties are made of different materials, and that comes a lot with different maintenance and ongoing upkeep of that property. So today, as we're inspecting a few different properties, I want to give you a bit of an understanding of the exterior of all of these different properties and what type of maintenance that's going to require and how much money that could cost you on a yearly or a 5-yearly basis. So today we got about 3 or 4 inspections that we're going to go to. We'll try and get a video every single one of them so you can get a bit of a different opinion, a different approach to the different types of external construction. So let's go. So here at our first inspection, we're at a pretty typical Queensland style house. We call these post-war homes, or Queenslander as well. So up here we've got the timber weatherboard, which is probably one of, if not the most popular external construction. Timber weatherboard is just a timber external construction, mostly painted. It gives you a nice look and looks quite appealing. The only thing is with timber weatherboard is it does require ongoing maintenance. Because it's timber, you need to paint over it. I would probably say every 10 years and can cost $5,000 to $10,000 depending how bad it is to continue to do that. So looking at this particular property here, it's probably been done within the last 6 years. So I wouldn't say that you would immediately need to paint the exterior of this property, but within the next 5 years, I would say be ready to get another bit of a paint job. Make sure that it's not flaking off, making sure that you're not getting any waterproofing issues. A lot of these older Queensland post-war style homes that have the weatherboard construction upstairs either have some bricks downstairs just like this to prop it up. We call that raised brick because the property is actually held up on posts, and these bricks are actually just a facade for the exterior of the property to close it all in. Bricks can be nice and simple. I love the fact that these guys have painted this one, but opportunities in the future would be to render that and give it a bit of a more modern look. But you probably want to get a little bit of the same color going on the top and the bottom at this one. Unfortunately, at this property, we can't see the roof, so we can't really talk too much about that one, but at the next property, we'll be able to get some more information on the roof. Property number 2, we just rocked up to, and I wasn't really sure what the exterior was made of. So I've had a chat with the selling agents, and they've actually had a building and pest inspection done. And that building and pest inspector confirmed that the exterior construction of this particular property is asbestos. So back in the day, probably the 60s, 70s, 80s, asbestos was the material of choice for a lot of builders. It's really durable. It lasts a very long time, but as we all know, it does have those health benefits once it does get broken up and fibers go off into the air. So asbestos probably isn't as scary as everybody thinks. It actually maintains very well. It lasts such a long time, and it's really, really durable. But because of those health issues, can cause a bit of trouble. But as we know, a lot of the suburbs that we particularly focus in Brisbane, most of the houses were built in the 60s or 70s or 80s. So most of the properties do have a lot of asbestos in them. Now, this one's had some renovations over time. They actually ripped off the old asbestos roof and put on a new ColourBond roof, which can come at a significant cost. Nowadays, it's probably going to cost you around $20,000 to $25,000 to replace an asbestos roof. But they've kept all of the asbestos in the house because it hasn't been broken. It does look fine at this point in time. So over time, you just want to continue to paint over the top of it, make sure it's all sealed. But ideally in the future, probably want to get rid of all of the asbestos and replace it with either timber weatherboard. You could even put some timber look weatherboard over the top of it to make it a little bit more desirable and take away some of those health issues. So what I'm talking about is actually this timber look weatherboard, which a lot of properties will have. The next door neighbor conveniently has this. So it looks exactly like timber weatherboard, although it's a plastic component that just is called timber look, and you can just put it over the exterior of the property to make it appear a little bit better. Still, the actual construction, I would say underneath that would be asbestos, but from the exterior, looks a lot nicer. So you can throw a little band-aid over the top sometimes. So the next one that we have just rocked up to now is your stock standard brick and tile house. Now, a lot of people love a brick and tile house because they probably require the least maintenance over time. You don't have to go painting the exterior all the time. The roof is always solid. Tile roofs are always solid, but generally you're going to be paying a premium to get into a nice solid brick and tile house. So here we've got a double story brick and tile home, but it's not actually double story. It's what we call a raised house. So it's not actually built on a slab, but you can obviously see that they've got 2 levels to this. They've got the parking downstairs, a little utility room downstairs, but majority of everything is on the top level at this particular property. So there you have it. There's a few different options on the external construction of a property and how that can matter. We've gone through the standard Queenslander style, which is your timber weatherboard upstairs with either brick downstairs or some sort of FC sheeting. You've got your asbestos housing as well, which is a much more old school type of construction, but very durable, lasts very long with the unfortunate health benefits. And then you've got your standard brick and tile home, which are probably the more popular types of homes. They were very popular in your 90s and your 2000s. Nowadays, you see a lot going back to that sort of weatherboard look. So, you know, there's a few different options for you. To us, it's not always just about the external construction. It's not actually about the house. We do see a lot of value in the market, the suburb, the street. When it comes to the house level, you're always going to have to maintain the property regardless of what type of external construction it is over time. So I wouldn't be attaching too much to any of those and making sure that you're doing your research to get into the right areas first. But understand that if you do have a weatherboard house, it is going to require a little bit more maintenance. If you do have a brick and tile home, you're probably going to have to pay a premium to get into that one. So thanks so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this week's clip of property acquisition tips and tricks. Have a great day.